Three, two, one. We're live and good evening, everyone. A unbelievable, riveting and capitulating show about what are we talking about, Lisa Novak?
I don't know. Is that a word that you just made up?
Captivating?
Oh, captivating, I think is what you wanted to talk about. Yes.
Yeah, I started a bit, but it's a show and it's exciting. It's about doing it yourself when you are selling or when you are renting the property. Some of the butcher stuff that we've seen happen, and what not to do.
Oh yeah, we see a lot of it. And you know, this is a big topic, Mark. It's a massive topic because a lot of people are saying these days, well, if you can just put your property onto social media, what do we need a real estate agent for?
Yep.
Right? If you can just put it onto Facebook Marketplace, or if you can just put the property out onto your own social media pages. I know there's a lot of those off-market real estate sites that we're seeing now on Facebook. I've seen them come up, and there's been a bit of a flurry in real estate world where some people are suggesting, be careful, guys, because this could be the era of how, where people are going to get rid of their real estate agents.
Well,
really?
you can give yourself heart surgery and save a fortune.
100%. You can just Google that.
Google it.
But, here's the thing. You've always been able to put your property out and advertise it privately and find a buyer privately and do it yourself. So you could always just do the letterbox drops. Before the days of digital social media, you could just put your property out onto the good old-fashioned newspaper, right, and just put a private ad in there. But people didn't do that because it's a craft. There's an art to this. We're specialists in our field. So that's the type of stuff that we're going to cover tonight. Along with property management, Mark, we have to address the issue of people that just want to self-manage, right? We manage over 1,600 properties. We see the disasters. So take the advice that we're going to give you guys.
It's your property. Do what you want. Like, it's yours. Yeah. You can afford to make the mistakes. Yeah. But tonight's about educating you potentially so you don't make those mistakes, what to watch out for. And, do you want to make the investment? Because agents' fees is a lot, and for rentals and for sales. But I think, like, I had a client the other day, Lisa, and I remember I said it to you. The price I got for their property was unfriggin' believable. Like, it was. I remember when I had the initial conversation with them only 5 weeks ago, when they said, "Can you come up? We're thinking, X," right? I was 305,000 above that X figure, right? And I'm going.
Would the vendor have got it themselves?
They probably would have just snapped it to a friend for, even if it was 100 more than that. But they said to me, like, that's a lot of money. Like, what you want to charge is a lot of money. And my husband does this for a job. He turns up to work and he gets paid. That's a lot of money for turning up to work and getting paid. And I said, it's like a diamond, right? You look at a diamond and you say, that's a fortune. But the amount of time and the amount of hours and labor that went into mining that diamond to give you that one diamond to buy, how can you possibly quantify that cost of the diamond? You really can't, but it is what it is what it is what it is, and that is the value. So I'm saying to the client, for me to bring you one buyer for that phenomenal price that's there, and for you to say that's a lot for bringing one buyer, well, not really, because I've been mining for, like, this, this particular deal I've been working on for 4 weeks. And I know you wrote, you'd said to me, it's 4 weeks plus 26 years of real estate to bring you that one buyer. It's true.
That's exactly right. But the
true.
Question here is, Mark, and what we're talking about tonight, if that seller, if that vendor sold the property themselves, would they have gotten that phenomenal knock your socks off offer? I could bet my life on it that the answer is no. All right. So there is an art and a craft to this. We're specialists at what we do. You can extract your tooth yourself, right? You could likely give yourself an appendix operation, not that we suggest that you do that, but Google has marvelous information out there. Why do people continue to go to specialists? And real estate agents are the same. And I think the big message has to be tonight that if you are not using a real estate agent, be prepared to take a whopping big hit on your end result, on your sale price, because let's suggest that the average commission in our area, Mark, let's suggest, and I'm just going to pluck a figure out of thin air, but let's suggest it's between, say, $30,000 to $50,000 for a property transaction, all right, that we get paid commission.
Yep.
If you are going to choose to do that yourself, be prepared to take a hit on your sale price of well in excess of that. Fact, guaranteed.
Well, I don't understand why someone can be driving around a $30,000 car and pay $1,000 for insurance or $1,500 insurance. They'll pay excess. So every single year for 5 years, they'll pay $7,500 to insure the $30,000 car in the event if they have an accident. Someone hits them or they hit someone. And it's like, you are managing an asset. So for instance, with rentals, right? Your property manager, a good property manager, not a rubbish one, a good property manager is going to charge you $1,000 or $1,500 a year. For that service, they will maintain your $750,000 property. They will maintain it. They will make sure it's running like a finely tuned animal. It's legal. Rent will come in. They'll manage that whole process. I just think to myself, if the value in that person, the value out of that person, they are adding massive numbers above and beyond, multiples of what they are
can we just
charging.
talk about the whole property management thing for a moment? So guys,
Yes.
For those of you that have just tuned in, we're talking about the DIY real estate agent, the person that thinks they can sell their property themselves or manage it themselves, and what the massive repercussions are of doing that. So in sales, if you think that you can sell it yourself, be prepared to take a whopping big hit on your sale price. There is a craft, there is an absolute strategy, and it comes with experience, all right, of selling your property for a phenomenal price.
Yep.
Believe you me, there is, because we do many cleanups from other agents as well, incidentally. Rentals, property. A cleanup is where someone either.
Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Hello, guys. Hi, everybody. A cleanup is where possibly a private vendor or a private landlord or another agent was not able to achieve a successful result on a property, and then it's come over to an agent like us, and then we've sold it right off the back of it for a phenomenal price. I personally do lots of them. I love it. I love doing the cleanups after other agents. Absolutely love it. So that's what a cleanup is, guys. Property management, Mark, this is a big one. Landlords think that they're going to self-manage, and I know there's lots of them out there. We manage 1,600 properties. It's not by luck, I can assure you. We manage a lot of property on the Northern Beaches because we're really, really experienced and really good at what we do. Now, here is the big learning, guys. The self-managed landlord. Let's just put it into perspective for a moment. You have, let's suggest you've got an investment property that's worth $1 million. That is $1 million of your hard-earned cash. You want to make sure it is being protected.
Yep.
Okay? There is a process to putting someone, a stranger that you don't know, into a property and praying to God, giving them the keys and praying to God that they're going to look after the property, that they're going to pay their rent on time, that they're not going to damage anything, and that when they hand the property back and they hand those keys back to you, that the property is going to be in the same condition that it was when you handed those keys over. Because this is $1 million of your hard-earned cash. You don't want that to very quickly turn into $700,000 or $800,000. Now, that's what we see when properties are self-managed.
You know what? A great professional, a great business person is not judged in the good times. They're judged in the bad times. They're judged in the harsh times. If you are managing a property yourself, like the example you just gave, you will not know how bad it can get, or what a shitstorm it can be until you're knee deep in it. So you could be trouble-free motoring for a year or 2 or 3, but when shit gets real and there is pain, and you don't deal with it properly because you haven't done it 100 times or 1,000 times or 452 times, you get pretty good as a property manager when you're dealing with that all of the time. So these guys are school of hard knocks, know how to deal with problems and can minimize a loss very easily rather than that loss getting worse. I see so much Mr. Nice Guy or so much I don't know what I'm doing. And because that landlord made that decision, they will die by their sword and they will lose thousands and thousands, of potentially $5,000 or $10,000 on dealing with the situation badly.
And they do, Mark.
Happens.
Because you look at the self-managed landlords that come over to us, for instance. Look at the dire situation a lot of them are in, where they've lost an absolute fortune. The property wasn't managed properly because they simply just didn't have the experience and they didn't know what they were doing. And when the SHIT hit the wall, right, and they've brought it over to us, the cleanup that was behind that, the tribunal, can sometimes equate to tens of thousands of dollars, purely because they were trying to save maybe a few $1,000s a year. So for those of you guys that careful. For those of you guys that don't know what management fees can cost, for those people that might be watching that could be self-managing their own property, you're looking at a fee anywhere between 5 to 7% plus GST. Anything under that, I would be seriously questioning the integrity of the property manager. And anything above that is just way too high and way above where market should be. So between 5 to 7% of the actual rental income plus GST is about what you should be paying for management. It's a very small price to pay for a guaranteed experienced property manager. Now, here's the other thing.
Just one other thing, please. Jeff's got a very important point he just wanted to point out. Can you read that?
Is that Mark the man?
Just want to say back over to you. Sorry.
Thank you, Mark. So it's a very small price to pay, guys, that management fee, for knowing that your property is being looked after by an absolute professional. Okay, again, that $1 million, if we use that as, let's suggest an average price for an apartment, let's say, or a house, or whatever it may be, but let's use the equation of $1 million. It's $1 million of your money. You want to make sure that it is protected. If you had that in the bank, right, you want to make sure that the bank that you've put that money into is going to be trustworthy, reliable, and when you go to withdraw the money, it's going to be there. And it's the same thing with property management. All right, we see disasters happen often with people that self-manage their own properties. Now, just on that, Mark, something very interesting came across me the other day.
Can you tell me what that is, Lisa?
Yes, Mark, I would like to. Realestate.com, I believe, have just brought out some sort of a platform where landlords are able to advertise their property on their portals so that landlords can find their own tenants. Are you familiar with this?
A bit like domains.com.au has done forever.
Okay. So, I know that there's some people in the industry that are up in arms about it. But look, at the end of the day, nothing changes. A landlord that wants to self-manage just simply does not have the experience or the resources to self-manage. I'm sorry, I'm not being disrespectful, but we do this for a living, right? I'm not an electrician. I wouldn't go changing.
True.
I wouldn't go playing around with electrical wires in our house, right? And it's the same thing in our industry. We're experienced at what we do, right? And again, just going back to what I said, sorry, Mark, just going back to what I said at the beginning of the show, the newspaper has been around forever.
I wouldn't mind talking a little bit as well when you're ready.
Okay, I'll let you know. But the newspaper's been around forever, and people have always been able to privately advertise their properties for sale or for rent in the newspapers. Nothing has changed. Over to you.
Absolutely. But
oh,
thanks, Liz. But also, you know what? It's simple maths. and this is an accountant's way to look at it. And I get that people are from all different walks of life. Galmatic, how are you? Is that Eleni? Is that Eleni Galmatic?
That's the lovely Eleni that we had in the studio.
Yes, she said hello and welcome today. But it's very simple maths, and I think as a professional, you've got to appeal to people's different professions. So when we're suggesting us to sell a person's property and out those services, and when we're suggesting us to manage a person's property for rent and those services, you've got to be, as an agent, you've got to be compassionate to what industry they're in, and then apply, what you do and overlay that a little bit to how they would see it in their world. In an accountant's way, and looking at it from that way, very analytical, we may run on a 10 or 20% profit as a real estate agency. The fat kid that's eating cake that owns the real estate agency is making 10 or 20% off that service fee. If that's going to be $500 a week, and if the agency is going to take $25 a week, the fat kid is going to get $5 a week. No, $2.50 a week. The fat kid's getting $2.50 a week, right? So professional services. So where's that other 90% being spent of your agency fees? Where's the other 90% being spent? I'll tell you where it's being spent. Leasing consultants, signage, property managers, somewhere to come for people to come and sit down and have a discussion.
Yeah. Insurances,
all the ancillaries that support that. Behind the professionals, that's 90% of the cost. That's an animal you've got. And not only that, because we're managing so many properties, we're saving costs as well. So, because we're doing it in bulk, we aggregate all of those services. We still only make, 10%. My point is, you are getting an absolute trained military professional managing your property. And I dare to say it's not even costing you anything, because we're making our savings just by aggregating and manage all of those properties. Do you know what I'm actually saying? Like,
not to mention it's a deduction.
Huh?
Not to mention it's a deduction.
It's a tax deduction as well. But my point is, because we're doing it in bulk, we're giving you so much more value, and still to take a 10 or 20% profit out of it is not which is probably more like 10. But I think as a person that's getting real estate services and paying for a property manager, you are getting super value, a lot more off where it used to be when management fees were 7 or 8%. Now they're sitting between 5, 6, and 7%. But watch out also what you're paying on top, because often people will say you're paying 5 and they charge plus.
Without a doubt. But look,
we've talked a lot about rentals.
Because it's a big thing. I think, where people, again, we just see, not so many, but we do see people who self-manage property, and they're the train wrecks that we clean up. And goodness me, it can take months for us to get the property back on board again. The damage and the rental arrears and going to tribunal and all that sort of stuff. We're dealing with, obviously our property managers are extremely experienced. They've been in the industry for a long, long time. And I can't reiterate enough, where you guys are trying to save maybe a few $1,000s a year on your management fees, it will come back and it will bite you in the bum, because, if your property's not managed properly, rental arrears and maintenance and all that sort of stuff, believe you me, it's going to end up costing you tens of thousands of dollars. So just be careful. Just be careful. It's all good and well. I always say to landlords that say, look, we're thinking about self-managing it. It's like insurance, Mark, like what you mentioned before.
Yeah.
It's all good and well until it's not.
And you know what? If you think all real estate agents are the same, you're the muppet for choosing the real estate agent that's the same as all the rest of them. I think as a consumer, you've got to make sure it's about choice, and you've got to choose the right agent. If you've chosen an agent, they're the same as every other agent out there, well, you probably haven't chosen a good agent. My point is, there's a lot of really good agents out there, and they're not the same.
No, 100%. And again, just coming back to property managers,
yes.
There's a very distinct difference between someone who's been in the industry for a matter of months. That part of our industry is not regulated. So it means that you could have been in beauty therapy last month, and this month you're renting out someone's property. So sorry, I just heard a massive noise. I was like, what was something just I don't know if you just heard that there. Sound like a gunshot. Hopefully it wasn't. But
it's pretty normal here. We hear that all the time. I don't even flinch anymore.
So but you know, there is a big distinct difference between property managers, just like in any industry, guys. It's like saying all heart surgeons are the same. It's like saying all dentists are the same. No, ask around, get referrals, follow social media, do your due diligence, read reviews. You know, trust me, if you just ask around, people will tell you. The good ones will stand out heads and shoulders above.
Hey, Lise, what do you think about my title, the Make Money Coach?
The Make Money Coach.
What do you reckon?
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, you know, people come to me and they say, I've got this much money, and then I go, you buy this, and they make money. Give them good advice, show them good properties, make money.
It, Mark. If the shoe fits.
I heard it and I thought that I really like that. This is the first show that I've used the Make Money Coach on.
Let's see how it goes. I like it.
How many viewers are watching? There's millions watching at the moment as a result.
If the shoe fits, Mark, I say wear it. Now, guys, I think we need to wrap up. Just talking. Let's wrap up, Mark. Just talking about a couple of things. So again, the DIY real estate agent. If you think that you can sell your property yourself, or if you think you can self-manage it yourself, be prepared to be down the plug, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. All right, we've seen them. We've seen the case studies. We've cleaned up after a lot of them, and it's never turned out well, not ever. Again, you know, I've seen on Facebook a lot of private sellers that are trying to play the matchmaking game with a private buyer. Guys, it's not about like, oh, I think maybe I could get $1.8 million for my property, and a buyer comes along and says, I'll pay that and deal done. You know what? You could have gotten maybe $2 million if you had an experienced person driving the campaign for you. Fact. All right. And it's the same thing with self-managing your own property. But Mark, I want to talk about the market, what's going on in real estate world and on the Northern Beaches. Obviously, we've come out of complete lockdown now on the Northern Beaches. As of Saturday night, the shackles are off.
Just feels
and
so
I'll
much.
tell you what, the market is on. The shackles are off and the market is on. Today has been flat out. I have been on my phone. I've had to charge my phone twice. I've run my battery down that much. But the market's crazy, right?
It's back. You know what, Lise? Like, we're going to make some serious capital growth this year. Sydney, Victoria, I think most states are going to make some serious capital growth. This is building wealth into the biggest asset class in the country. We should all be really, really excited. We should be really proud as Australians. We should be really confident about the times ahead, and not scared, not anxious, not depressed about what's been happening. You know, and I think that's the past, the last year. If we transpose that into the future, what do you see with property? Say the next 12 months.
Oh, it's gonna continue to soar. It has to, Mark. Look, the thing is that property got thrown on its head, sort of, you know, early to mid last year. It got thrown on its head and it just bounced straight back up again. The resilience of the property market has been phenomenal, and that's been Australia-wide. We talk with agents right across the country, and all agents report the same. Stock levels are low. There's buyers in abundance. People have realised that their home, their haven, the roof over their head is more important than it's ever been before. We're spending more time in our properties, right, than we ever have before. And people are happy to throw money at property and, you know, live in their dream properties. Get another room, get a bigger garden, get a balcony, whatever it might be. Transition, that whole sea change, tree change.
I had Serbian Christmas on the 7th of January, and I was having a discussion with my sister. And we were talking about her first property that she moved into in DY. We were talking about the first property my brother moved into in DY, and I think it was going back to the year 1989. Over a 12 or 24-month period, actually a 5-year period is probably a better example, her property went from 37,000 to 130,000. Okay, so if people think that there's no more room for growth in property, where the hell have you been the last 50 years? Because every 10 years, on average, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 13. Don't quote me, it's just going to happen. But every single time it doubles. Now, here's DY, right? Guess what it's done? It hasn't doubled in 10 years. So why wouldn't it go to double in 10 years? And guess what that is? 30%. There's room for 30% before it's double in 10 years. It's still conservative times. The market still hasn't gone bananas. If it does do 10, 15 or 20% of the year ahead, it's still on point for doubling in 10 years. It hasn't tripled over the last 10 years.
What do you reckon it's going to do in the next 12 months, Mark?
Hey?
What do you reckon it's going to do in the next 12 months?
15%.
Yeah, I was going to say 12. But actually, after what I've seen today, just with the abundance of buyers, and here's what I know after the weekend, and we were face to face with, just as in my team, were face to face with about 150 buyers on Saturday. All of those buyers are ready to buy now. The vast majority of those buyers are cashed and ready to buy right now. So I think we did some stats in our sales meeting, Mark, last week.
Yep.
And we were just, we were taking little bets on what the property market was going to do. I said 12%. I reckon we could see it grow as much as 20% in the next 12 months. I think we're going to see an enormous amount of growth.
Say that again.
So I would suggest within the next 12 months, we're going to see a massive, massive growth in the property market, maybe as much as 20%. I thought 12% last week, but after speaking with a lot of these buyers today, they're just like, I've got $2 million, find me something, find me a property to buy. Property is moving very, very quickly, low levels of stock, low interest rates. I don't know, just apply common sense.
Super smart buddy SMS me today. Little Johnny needs to buy a property. What have you got around 500,000? I have 3 properties for 500,000. My mate, this guy who asked the message, pretty smart bloke. I'm talking one of Sydney's finest. Did not know what the position was with first home buyer grants in its entirety. I'm floored. The basic economy of it, like, he was still surprised that for the property his little Johnny was going to buy, after all the interest, after all the strata, after all the council's paid and the rent comes in, he's still going to give little Johnny 5 to 10 grand a year on top of the interest rate repayments. He was very surprised that he only needed 25,000 for little Johnny if little Johnny doesn't need to have a 20% or a 10% deposit. He was very surprised that little Johnny only needed 25K of the 500K to buy. My point is, know your facts, and with the facts that are out there in the market, the pillars that are out there supporting this market, it must go bananas. There must be good capital.
And also, can I just add to that? Looking into my crystal ball, the way this property market's going with this flurry of buyers out there, I'm not overly convinced that first home buyer's grant is going to be around for too long.
Yeah.
I'm just not overly convinced, right? I really, really don't know that it will be, because there is that property market is so stimulated. There are so many buyers out there. Interest rates are so low. I'm not certain that it actually needs more incentives out there. So
right.
I think that we may see, my opinion, we may see the government pull that away within the next 6 months.
That's astounding. That's incredible. Because what are people going to complain about then?
Not enough stock on the market. Not enough stock. Stock's moving too quickly.
Yeah. All your stars have aligned as the first home buyer. all your stars of alignment. I opened my shirt as a joke, but it's not that funny. All your stars of aligned as a first home buyer, and there's people out there that don't know about it. It's like,
it's interesting. You know, this is what I've often said about COVID, Mark. There's an information overload with a lot of this stuff. It's hard for people to find this easy to digest, bite-sized information. It's hard. And I think that's the case with the first home buyers. It's complicated. People are like, so I'm a first home buyer and I think I've got to be buying in under the 650. Like, they don't know. They should know, but they don't, because there's been a bit of an information overload. Guys, I think that's almost us, Mark.
Yep.
Chat. Important topic, the DIY real estate agent. Guys, don't go trying to sell it yourself. You're going to take a hit on your sale price. Fact, how do you know that you couldn't, that you could have gotten more money? You don't know because you don't have the experience. Sorry to be so blunt, but that's the truth. And it's the same with property management. 1,600 properties we manage, not by luck. And the cleanups that we have to do are behind those self-managed properties is always a disaster.
Up to 5,000 tenants, up to 5,000 landlords. But you know what? If you don't believe us, call us and speak to us.
100%.
At the end of the day, if you don't believe us, call us and ask us why. And we will happily tell you why. Because the amount of free advice that I give out every day on the phone with friends and family and clients that you're not making a buck for, more than happy to have a chat. And then, people go, yep, sure. Can you please look after Johnny's property as well? People trust you for that reason. So
and you know what? It's costing you a few $1,000, $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 annually to have your property managed. Let's suggest that, again, I'm just plucking a figure out of thin air, but thereabouts, to have your property managed and have an experienced property manager like Branka, who's been in the industry for 15 years with us, like Cleo, who's been in the industry for 17 years, 13 years with us, to be able to have those guys on tap, to be able to ring them and get that advice. You tell me any solicitor across the world that you could ring endlessly to get experienced advice for that kind of money. It is a very, very small price to pay. Don't do it yourselves, guys. It will end in disaster. That's it.
Boom, boom.
I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.